All right, Nick, let's talk about the USC Trojans. I think we've gone through spring ball. We've gotten a lot through this off-season program so far. We've seen a lot of good things, but one thing, the quarterback position, there's been a decision made. I think at this point everybody knows as far as who's going to be the starting quarterback of this team, but I think one thing in particular, what that new starting quarterback brings to the team is a whole new air, a very different look to this team, something that this team has been missing really for only 1 year, but I think it's bringing back something special to the Trojans. We'll get to that in just 1 second here, but first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, quarterback battle is over. Jayden Maiava going to be the starting quarterback for the Trojans week 1, but I think what he brings back to this team is something they've been missing since the departure of Caleb Williams, and I think he can do it even better than Caleb Williams did in that regard. Let's get into the article, and then we can talk more about all the stats and the details of everything on the other side. So this, of course, is over from SI.com. It says, Maiava was engaged in a quarterback competition with 5-star early enrollee Hassan Longstreet this spring. Another great quarterback, but he was able to edge him out. Said, but Riley stated, Jayden's the clear number 1 quarterback right now, which is not surprising at all. He's really grown, continuing to get better physically. He came with a little bit of knee issue last year. That's all cleared up, so he's really been able to train. He's going to move around better for us this year. But if we can trim down a few of those decisions off of him, talking about bad decisions, which I certainly believe we can, this guy's got a chance to be elite. He just does some things that are hard to teach, hard to coach, and some things that are very, very tough to defend. Riley continued. I think that last sentence here, the last two really, are the keys here. Because what does that mean? It means all Maiava has to do, he has the ability to do everything really, really well, is to clean up some mistakes, but the things that he brings to the table as far as what he's able to do physically is way different than anyone else who was playing quarterback for them last year. Miller Moss, no offense, but he just definitely was not an athletic guy. Didn't bring a lot to the table in that aspect. I think Maiava brings a ton to the table here, and Riley's really excited about what he's able to do. But let's already see in the short time Maiava did play, how he played and what he did from year 1 to year 2. So first year, not at USC. This is guy, he did okay, not anything really too special, but second year, already minimal time in Lincoln Riley's system. We already see the massive improvement here, looking at the chart in front of us. So we have his touchdown to interception ratio went from a 50% to 58%, so 58% touchdown versus 50% being of the time being a touchdown versus interception. I think that's good. A little bit of improvement there, showing he's cutting down a little bit on those mistakes Lincoln Riley is talking about. You like to see a little bit more, cut down a little bit more on the mistakes, but still you can see the improvement here. You look at his passer grade, something here that I think has jumped up a good amount, 63.1 in year 1 to 76 overall PFF passer grade in year 2. Big jump, but I think it will get even bigger in year 2 of Lincoln Riley's system, year 3 overall. And then finally, this is the key here, the run grade. I think this is something that is really special that he really brings to the table, and it shows Lincoln Riley was able to unlock that in him, and he didn't really get that in UNLV. So year 1, 54 PFF run grade for Maiava versus year 2, an 80.9 PFF run grade. This guy was an asset in the run game. He was able to use his legs to do some really good stuff for this team. I think just overall, he brings a ton to the table in that regard, and is something they were really, really missing last year. And I'm just talking about that briefly because we talked about last year. This is a team who Miller Moss led at the quarterback position, but when you look at what he did with his legs, he was not a threat whatsoever. This is a guy who had 21 carries for negative 18 yards. So nothing, he's most likely kneeling it out or getting sacked. Not anything special there for the rushing department. Only was able to punch in 2 rushing touchdowns. His longest run was 9 yards. Something that isn't too spectacular. Nothing really crazy. But you look at Jayden Maiava, in limited play time, he had 20 carries for 45 yards, and he himself punched in 4 touchdowns when he wasn't even close to being the starter last year. I think that's the key, and that's what Lincoln Riley is getting excited about, because if we scroll back just 1 year to 2023, We look at what Caleb Williams brought this team. He's not crazy athletic, or he's very athletic, but he wasn't crazy big as a runner. We all know he's a much better pure passer, did a lot with his arm in this Lincoln Riley system, but still, he carried the ball 97 times for 136 yards and was able to punch in 11 touchdowns. While minimal, he was able to use his legs, and it was a big part of the game. And his longest run was like 46 yards. So he was able to make plays when needed, and I think that's what we're getting back with a guy like Jaden Mayava. It's a guy that can use his legs. He's very athletic. He's a talented runner, much more athletic than Miller Moss was last year. And I think that's the key here. Lincoln Riley, you see the big jump, 54 to 89, or 80.9. Huge jump in his rushing grade, able to use him effectively as a runner. And I think we're going to see it even more this coming season. That's why I'm excited about it. I think this Trojan team is no longer to be one-dimensional like they were last year. They're opening it up. You got to worry about the quarterback position now with Jaden Mayava under tow. I think it's going to be really great for them going forward. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Trojans fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about the quarterback position, talking about, using his legs. We're talking about, let's compare Caleb Williams to Jaden Mayava. Williams, in his last year at USC, 11 touchdowns scored with his legs. Let us know. What do you think? Over or under 11 touchdowns for Jaden Mayava this season? This is a guy going to light up the field with his legs, make a lot of big plays, be able to punch in a bunch of touchdowns over 11? Or do you think he's going to fall a little bit short of what Caleb Williams is able to accomplish with his legs? Let us know in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest for the Trojans?
So I think it's going to do a lot of really positive things for USC, and there's a lot to really unpack here. First and foremost, let's just focus on just a high level, what it means on Saturdays for USC. So the Trojans last year had the second highest rated offense in the Big Ten on a yards per game basis, second only to the University of Oregon, right? But they finished fifth, number 5 in points scored. So they were the second best team in terms of moving the football, but only fifth best in terms of actually producing points. A lot of that has to do with red zone production. Do you have the ability to punch it in the red zone when that situation arises? And that's where having a mobile quarterback, a quarterback that can run, gives you that extra element to turn those 50, 60-yard drives into 3-point drives, or to turn those 3-point, drives into 7 points, right? And that can be the big difference. If you look at a lot of USC games, right, there's a lot of moments where, hey, if we could have turned some of those drives into touchdowns instead of field goals or getting stopped on 4th down, you win the game. Completely different feel of the season last year. So just from a tactical perspective, going from what Miller Moss was bringing most of the season into what Mayava's going to bring from a running perspective, scrambling, just naturally designed running perspective, will improve this offense to the point where they go from, again, the 5th best scoring team in the Big Ten, probably into the top 3, which is worth by itself there, just on red zone improvement, just 2 wins at least there, and who knows how many more, right? Could completely change the dynamic of the conference, just that element of Mayava by himself. But when you focus on Mayava as a player, I think what really jumps out at me, and you highlighted there with that chart, which I think is really outstanding, is the improvement aspect of it. Now, Mayava's a physical talent. There's undeniable so. He's got great athletic skill set. But it's one thing to have the athletic tools. It's another thing to improve your game in the context of a really tough conference, a really tough offense, right? There's a lot of guys that have great athletic skills and have just phenomenal flashes of ability, but can you consistently become a better player? And those numbers that you showed indicated it, and you've listened to Lincoln Riley through the offseason, they said, yeah, Mayava's becoming a more consistent player. He's minimized the negative. He still has those splash athletic plays, but he's also become better at just managing the offense, executing the offense. And that's really important, because sometimes what happens with these freaky athletic guys is they make 1 or 2 highlight plays a game, but you look at the end of the game, they've thrown for $140 and then 1 touchdown, 1 pick. They ran for 30 and a touchdown. You only scored 17 points and you lost 31-17, right? You say, well, yeah, he had 2 highlight plays. He had an amazing scramble. Yeah, he had a beautiful 50-yard bomb, but the other 55, 60 plays was a lot of bad, and we lost the game, right? That happens a lot with these athletic phenoms. The reality is the best quarterbacks, like Caleb Williams, are those who can channel being a quarterback and combine it with a great athletic skill set, put them together, and magic can happen. And I think Mayava, now obviously he's not Caleb Williams, certainly not yet at least. We'll see what the future holds. But the reality is, based on Lincoln Riley's comments and his coaching, let's give credit to Coach Riley here. This is what he does. He's turned Mayava into, hey, athletic freak, phenom, a lot of great tools, into a guy who can actually function in the offense. And let's give Mayava a lot of credit for making that improvement and making that change. people forget, right? All of these phenomenal quarterbacks, certainly these great athletes like Maeva was, since he's 6, 7, 8 years old, all he's had to do was just rely on his athletic skill set. He's the best player on every field he's ever been. You get to college, and a lot of times it's like a complete vibe shift, right? You have to change how you play completely. There's only like 1 or 2 Lamar Jacksons that somehow, some way, no matter what level of football they're in, they're just athletically better than everybody. Maeva isn't Jackson. I think he's got a bright future, but he's not Lamar Jackson. So you have to be able to be willing to change your game, change your approach. And it's hard, right? You've had your entire life playing a certain way. You got to buy into what the coaches are telling you. You got to have some humility. You got to have some self-awareness. And Maeva's had that. And that's why I think USC is going to go with Maeva as a starting quarterback at least week 1. We'll have to see how the season progresses. I think it's a smart move to make. I think this is a guy here who has great physical tools. He's finally fixed a lot of his problems. I think he gives USC that extra dimension that Miller Moss didn't. Nothing on Miller Moss. I think he did a lot of really nice things. But the reality is you need to have a quarterback that can translate those drives into touchdowns instead of field goals, right? Whether it's running, whether it's hyper accuracy in the red zone, scrambling, whatever it may be, you just have to find a way to get it done. Last year, USC didn't. I think Maeva has a great chance to allow them to improve in that regard. And again, that by itself is probably worth at least 2 wins for the Trojans.